Welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast, your sanctuary with retreat experts, where we spill the tea on retreat success. Here we dive into crafting transformational guest experiences, talk about how to avoid pitfalls, and unlock marketing secrets. Whether you're a seasoned guru or a budding enthusiast, we've got the inside scoop for you. Join us as we learn how to flourish in this magical world of retreats. Welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. It's Shannon, and today I have got such a fun guest that I am so excited to introduce to you. I'm going to let him tell you all about himself more than I could do it justice, I'm sure, but we're so excited to have you on the show, Ricardo. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Shannon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Why don't you first start off by just telling us who you are, what you do, and what brings you into the retreat space?
Sure thing. So my name is Ricardo Topete. I'm a Philadelphia-based videographer, photographer, dance enthusiast, and podcast host. And I lead, certain events with dancing specifically in the kind of retreat space. But I'm really working on all kinds of things with media specifically and trying to create a platform and a community really of folks who are interested in social dancing and who are also trying to find the benefits of incorporating that into their life, as well as learning something new, developing a new skill, connecting with others, and even connecting with themselves.
Okay, I love so much about this, but coming from someone who is like not, I don't want to say not a good dancer because I just, that's not the right thing to say, but someone who just doesn't really dance unless I've had a few drinks. Do you find that there are people who are intimidated when you start talking about this, or people who naturally love to dance gravitate towards you and your message?
That's a phenomenal question. I think there definitely are a good number of people who are hesitant when they hear about social dancing or just dancing in general. I think like people right off the bat, they probably think about dancing as like the club, doing your two-step at a hip hop kind of, area late at night, surrounded by alcohol and strangers and etc. Social dancing has some components of that, but it's not quite all that. And so social dancing, at least in the specific realm of where I, involve myself in, is Latin style social dancing. It also kind of just evolves as a number of things. So I mainly dance salsa, bachata, zouk, and kizomba. And zouk and kizomba aren't necessarily Latin style, but they're kind of in a similar world where, at least in a lot of socials, you can find good mix and blend of all of them. However, mainly focusing on salsa and bachata as the Latin styles is something that I've been doing for the last close to a decade now. And I still see it on the dance floor, even as I'm peeking out and seeing folks who are new to the dancing, they kind of stick as wallflowers. And I, in fact, was one of those people because I just was feared. I had this huge fear of, kind of moving my body and kind of feeling like I would be embarrassed to have people watch me dance. And even like people who have seen videos of people social dancing or even have heard about it or are passing by and walking and see all these kind of people, this kind of mess of people moving all kinds of crazy and spinning and dipping and all that. It definitely sparks some intimidation. However, I think that intimidation in all essence is just curiosity. Just like when you're nervous for public speaking or, talking to somebody, it's because I think you're excited. And that's probably what is going on in people's minds, but it kind of registers as a fear at first. And so I'm kind of here to break down those barriers and break down those walls of fear and be able to help people realize that dancing doesn't necessarily involve you being naturally born talented in that sense. You can learn it over time.
Okay, I have so many thoughts on this. The first one is just a random, I don't know what, but my stepmom is Puerto Rican, and I grew up in Puerto Rican parties, weddings, gatherings, and so I actually, believe it or not, I actually feel really comfortable dancing. I guess you would call it salsa, Latin style, just free movement of your body to that beat of music. I can jive with that instant because I grew up with it. And I mean, it just right away, as soon as I hear that tone, that beat, that whole thing, that rhythm of it, of that style of music, my body automatically wants to move. On the flip side, if you have country music, and I like listening to country music, I'm over here like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I don't think so. But I just thought that was funny because that's kind of what you specialize. I'm curious, can you like share a specific instance or get an example of where movement or dance like can break down barriers between participants at a retreat or in a retreat setting?
Absolutely. I think it's social dancing is probably the best icebreaker there is because you're literally thrown into the fire. You're thrown into a pack of wolves in a metaphorical way because you're kind of you just there's no real hesitation. Like you say yes and you commit to a full 2 to 3 minutes with this person. Sometimes even longer, 5 minutes, 7 minutes if it's a live salsa band playing and they just don't stop because the music and the energy is high. But essentially, I think social dancing is a unique tool to be able to create a bond with people on retreat specifically. And I've seen this firsthand at workshops and at weekenders, what we call it, or congresses, festivals, really is what it is. But it's a weekend long festival retreat again, and it involves everything that's with dancing. So major cities like LA, Miami, Austin, Texas has a weekender and festival going on. Dallas, Texas, and even across the world, Poland, Spain, places in Europe you don't ever would have thought that social dancing, especially salsa and bachata, is a thing, is actually a thing, and it's huge, even bigger here than in the States, I would argue. But I've seen firsthand and witnessed it in myself as well. The bridge to meeting somebody new or getting to know somebody drops almost instantaneously. It's like the bond that you create with people as you're dancing with them is so strong that you end up becoming very close and very interested in that, in that connection, in that unique communication style that you create on the dance floor. And I can say and vouch for myself that without dancing, I probably wouldn't have been able to have all the friendships, connections, and opportunities open up for me if I hadn't just said yes to a dance and just committed, like I said, those 2, 3, 5 minutes to dancing with someone, because that leads to, having friends that I have in Miami, having friends in LA, having friends in other parts of the world like Spain that I can just literally call up or text and be like, "Hey, I'm on my way to this dance festival. Where are you going? Let's hang out, grab a drink, grab some food, hang out." And yeah, the list goes on.
Hey, it's Shannon here. I'm just popping in really quickly to ask a big favor. Would you pause the show and go review it for us? Please. Reviews really help us to be able to get more guests and more experts on the show to help you transform your retreats. So if you wouldn't mind pausing and leaving us a review, that would mean everything. And if you're not already subscribed, do that too. That's so awesome. It reminds me, I haven't incorporated dance too much in my retreats personally, as far as me doing it. However, I held a retreat in Florida a couple of years ago, and one of my team members, shout out to Callie, she embodies movement. Like she lives for it. She incorporates it into everything that she teaches. She's a phenomenal teacher, nurse, mother, woman, whatever. And so, in the end of one of our workshops, she had us collectively dance. And I got to tell you, at first, I was like, what did I sign up for? I thought this girl knew my jam. But you know what? Instantly, what happened, Ricardo, is exactly what you described. The guards that you drop, the masks that you drop, it's like everything is just set down and you just move in your body. And you do, if you're in a safe space, with which retreats and festivals and what you're describing are intended to be safe spaces, you literally can put all that shit down, and it does create this incredible bond. Like the joy that shines through your smiles, your laughs, giggles. It's powerful. So I have to say, in that one experience that I've had so far on one of my retreats, I was wowed by it. For me, and so this is where I'm curious from you. For me, I don't feel comfortable because maybe it's just not enough practice of it. Maybe it's just I haven't used it enough, incorporated enough. I don't feel comfortable saying, hey, we're going to do this. But I'm so about having someone else come and do it. What are your thoughts on that?
That's another great question because this is something that's talked about a lot in the social dance scene, and this is where not necessarily being careful with my words, but just choosing what I say to make the most sense here, is what I'm going to try to do. So culturally, back then, um, back before really current times, I can't even like explain it really well here, but dance is usually, at least a partner dance is usually danced as a lead and as a follow. And traditionally, leads are men and follows are women. Now, again, it's 2025. You can identify however you want to identify. And you can really either lead or follow or both. And so essentially, what is kind of not necessarily talked about because dancing is a nonverbal thing, right? But what's not really spoken about is who goes to ask who. And again, traditionally the leads ask the follows because as of I guess a rite of passage, or again, as of tradition and culture, that's just the way it's done. Now, in the social dancing of today, it looks like all kinds of things, whether it's a follow asking a lead, lead asking a follow. You both just kind of look at each other, say yes, and then go to the dance floor, and it just becomes a dance. It doesn't really have to have any set of rules now. And that's, I think, what I love most about social dancing is that it's so free. It's so flowy. It's not like you have to feel pressure to ask or feel the pressure to wait to be asked, is you have the choice to either say yes or no. And so um, I think with that, I would challenge people who maybe have to wait for somebody to ask them that they can learn a little bit more about themselves if they go and take the initiative to ask somebody else. Especially again in social dancing, to your point, if you're in a safe, comfortable, welcoming space, it's so easy to do that. And it's so kind of warming to be able to shine yourself and to express yourself when you don't feel bogged down by the external pressures of having to fit a role, a follower, a lead, or even like somebody who has to wait to be asked. So I think that without, all in all, it's a very important thing that we gotta kind of break down, another one of those barriers or walls that we got to talk about. But I think for somebody who maybe feels like they want to wait to be asked is, you know, make yourself a little bit more open. The best tip I can give you there is instead of kind of giving enclosed off body language, either crossing your arms or turning away, is kind of put yourself a little bit into the dance circle or into the dance kind of area. And you'll find very quickly that people will come up and ask you.
I love that as a thought for generally. I think for me, I'm more thinking of like in our retreat space for retreat leaders when we are leading a workshop or a ceremony or even a fireside dance. If the leader themselves, AKA me, doesn't feel comfortable starting that process of like a group dance or a social dance like that, but you know the power of it. Like I genuinely know the power of it. I'm thinking that we could either ask one of our team members to lead that, or what are your thoughts on that part? In
Gotcha.
order to incorporate dance into your retreat, but maybe that's not your strength to lead that, to kick it off, or do
hmm
you just do it? Do you just say, fuck it? And you guys, we're going to move our body and I'm going to put some music on.
So the thing I've learned to be able to facilitate that kind of energy, because it is really an atmosphere, it's an environment that you create. And as a leader of a retreat, you have to be able to show that to people because they'll show up and they'll kind of wait for directions in a sense like that. Um, so I'll actually draw upon another experience that I have. So I have a different type of event company that I started called Mix, MIX, and it's really about dancing, but in different kinds of genres. So hip hop, R&B, amapiano, reggae, reggaeton, etc. The list goes on. And what I faced when I started that was how can I get people to dance in the circle to be able to also to allow the videographers and photographers, other ones that I've hired, to capture that energy. And it really started with me being that for people. And so as a leader for those workshop leaders, I would suggest being able to create that environment via you yourself, kind of putting yourself out there, making yourself feel like a fool per se, and dancing or like coordinating that, or even having what I've discovered in the past that has worked with Mix is getting ambassadors, I like to call, or people who are supporters of the event to be like, hey, grab somebody to dance. Hey, I would love for you to connect with this person. Can you grab that person when the event starts? And just facilitate that a little bit more, make it more welcoming. Because people, I think even with social dancing, especially as well, people won't start to dance unless they see other people dancing because they don't want to be the first one to be in front of a crowd, in front of an awkward circle when they start. So definitely creating that environment first is very important.
Hey guys, it's Shannon. If you've been dreaming about hosting retreats or taking your existing retreats to the next level, let's make it happen together. Join me August 22nd through 24th for an unforgettable retreat leader mastermind experience. It's going to be located on my ranch in the beautiful Texas Hill Country. Here's what you'll get when you hang out with me and an amazing group of like-minded leaders. Learn my top strategies for marketing, business operations, and selling out your retreats. connect with other passionate retreat leaders in a high vibe, supportive circle. Recharge, relax, refresh, and soak up all the inspiration our ranch and our staff have to offer because you deserve it. This isn't just another workshop. It's a chance to step fully into your role as a heart-centered leader while building a business that thrives. I'll be right there with you, sharing everything I've learned from the years of hosting retreats and running my own venue. Spots are super limited, so grab yours now at profitwithpurposemastermind.com. Let's create retreats that transform lives, starting with yours. That's profitwithpurposemastermind.com. I can't wait to see you there. I like it. I think what I'm hearing too, like, I feel like if I were to try to kick it off, the guests would hear the hesitation and feel the hesitation in my energy, and it might not feel as comfortable to them. Versus like when Callie kicked it off, like that's her jam. That makes her like, that's just her jam. So the guests felt it and they immediately started moving with her. And so I'm thinking that if this is something as retreat leaders are listening, if they're like, man, I do understand and appreciate the power of dance and movement and dropping into our body and that connection, that bond that it can create, is seeing if you've got either someone on your team or an ambassador, as you called it, which I like, that does feel comfortable with that to help kick it off. Sometimes you might even have a guest who's attending who's like, oh, I just love dance, and you can invite them at the fireside to kick off a dance or whatever. So I'm hearing, anyways, that if it's not your jam, show up for it anyway and participate, but maybe somebody else on your team or somebody else can help kick it off just so that you can create that moment.
Yeah, and one more thing to add there too is, if I really kind of reach into my brain about what I've seen work at socials, with salsa, bachata, zuki zamba, all these socials, these night happenings, is that it usually starts with a lesson, and that helps people, close the gap of what they think dancing is and what dancing really is. And so if you're able to teach them some move, whether it's, something silly that's not necessarily correct or like whatever, that you just kind of break that ice to start, it will help people, create that energy moving forward. And so it's ultimately, I think people just don't have the right information or don't have clarity of information. Once they're given it and can use it practically in an environment, then you kind of let them loose, and really everything goes.
Oh, I love that. So, one thing I have done, I did it for my alumni retreat. My alumni retreat is something I do every other day, and it's open only to guests who've already been on my retreat. And so, one year I hired a couple that came in and taught everybody the two step. And that was so fun. And some of us were flopping around and like, again, like I mentioned, I can't really dance the two step very well. I just couldn't pick up the moves, but whatever. And so, but it was so fun. And that is something. So not only, as we mentioned, do you drop barriers and you set down all the noise, you create this bond that's incredible when you're learning a dance or learning to dance and dropping the music and the body, but you will continue to remember that and talk about that for years. I still have guests from that retreat, the alumni retreat, that are like, oh my gosh, do you remember? And we dressed up to match the theme. Like, you can just go with it. We've actually had other hosts come here because we're in Texas. The whole two step thing matches really well. We've had other hosts hire this couple and they come in and they teach their group two step, and it is awesome. It's a combination of hysterical, awesome, fun, but it is definitely bonding, and it's something that they remember forever because they dropped into their body. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think it's a very human thing to desire an experience like that, because I think I'm going to butcher this quote, but and please help me, you know, give credit to the person who said it, but people won't remember what you said to them, they'll remember how you made them feel. And so I think that's the most, that's like, that's it right there.
Yeah, you nailed it with that. Totally. I think that's the whole thing of gatherings and retreats and events in general is they might not even remember the exact music. Not even remember the speakers, all the words that they said. They're not going to remember even like there's so many details they may not completely capture, but they will absolutely remember how they felt in the presence and in the space. And so I couldn't agree more. What other advice or thoughts do you have for retreat leaders in general, if any?
Sure. I think, apart from creating the vibe, really, and creating the energy in the atmosphere to be able to help people kind of like you said, drop into your body or even drop into that present moment. I think besides that, it's just being able to really give value up front. And that's something that I've always tried to carry my life in this way, whether it be through business or through personal interactions, is my thought process is, can I leave this person better than when I first met them? And that's if I'm able to drop a little piece of educational value that, or answer a question that they might have, or a problem that they're kind of working through, that I can provide some kind of path to a solution, or even just like smiling and helping them feel something. I think that's the most important thing. And so, practically what that looks like is really listening to the audience, or the people who are attending, and seeing what is actually going on in their lives and tuning in, because that's where you're able to deliver the most impact. And that's where you're really able to create the community and the strong-willed people who are going to follow you along with your journey.
I love that. Thank you for that offering. If somebody wanted to get in contact with you or find out more about you, or I don't know, even if you offer workshops or services of any kind, can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I actually do teach. I just got back into teaching. I used to be an instructor back in Portland, Oregon, where I did a lot of well, I started my dance journey, and with COVID and everything, kind of lost access to the studio, et cetera, et cetera. But back to teaching again. And so I do lead workshops from time to time with my partner, Alex. We co-teach different socials. So everything from salsa to bachata. Not quite well versed in kizomba and zouk to be able to offer that quite yet, but salsa and bachata you can count on us on. Um, and essentially, if people want to get in contact, you can follow either my social medias or my website, and that's everything is under Ricardo Topete. It's RICO RICARDO TOPETE, and that's Instagram, Facebook. If you Google me, that's probably what's going to come up. And I handle and manage all those other channels that are under my name, with Why We Move being my podcast, and Rico Media Productions being my media company. So however you can get a handle of me, Ricardo Topete is the way.
Awesome. And everything that he mentioned will be in the show notes. So thank you so much for being a guest on the show and hopefully helping retreat leaders see the value and the benefit of adding movement and dance to their spaces.
Thank you so much for having me, Shannon. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. Learn more at www.theretreatranch.com. See you next time.